that a lot of you will be happy to hear about. There are rumors of a young male leopard by the name of Sindile, who we've been following closely for the last few months. And he was seen somewhere on our boundary with Arethusa. So we're going to head off into that direction and see if we can't find him there. So good prospects for us. And Jamie and Wium are heading out up into the northeastern corner of Djuma towards Buffelshoek Dam to see if there's anything of interest over there. Texan, one of the Djuma guides, was out this morning and he said there wasn't much going on, but the pack of wild dogs, it's 12 pups and 3 adults, so a total of 15 dogs, were in a similar area to where they were seen yesterday, right up in the north of Buffelshoek. So still not close to us, but the good news is they are lurking closer to our territory than they had before. And maybe in the coming days they will move further south and we'll get a treat to see them again. Now, if any of you are joining for the first time, it's great to have you on board. And just a few little things that are very important that you know, that this is a live safari. It's happening this very second. And we would love to hear your comments and thoughts. So for you to send them through to us, you can hashtag live on Twitter or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Got Nikki and Jess in the final control room this afternoon, and their job is to choose which picture, which vehicle to cut to feed your guys' questions through to us. That's where they are. And I believe
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a rather thankfully dry sunset safari. Seems as though the rain has cleared away for the moment, and we've got plenty of time to head out with a blank slate and see what animals we can find. Now, for those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie, and I have Wium on camera with me this afternoon. Wium, the wildebeest. We're going to go out and see if we can spot the various animals that are out in Djuma. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is a live safari, so everything you're seeing on your screen is happening right here on Djuma and Arethusa game reserves in the Sabi Sands. And we're also an interactive safari, so you can send us through your questions or your comments to hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Now, as I said, we're working with a blank slate. We're not too sure what was happening out and about this morning because it started to rain. But we've set off to explore the drainage lines around Vuyatela Lodge, and we've come across a rather sweet herd of nyala. Now, a little bit earlier, the young males were sparring. I was hoping they might continue again. Everything seems to be in high spirits now that the rain has cleared up, and I am including myself in that grouping. Let's see what these young boys are up to. Nice mixed herd tucked away. A couple of adult females and then these young males like the one off to the left. He's going to disappear into the, or behind the fallen knobthorn. But they definitely look happier and a great deal fluffier than when I saw them looking rather bedraggled this morning. It does set a rather nice peaceful starting tone to this afternoon's safari. Looks as though they're going to loop around to the left. So let me see if I can reposition just to get a nice visual of them as they come out of this drainage line. I've been looking around carefully for Karula. This is one of her preferred spots. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Karula is one of the older female leopard and the dominant female leopard in this territory. We are perched rather precariously on a precipice of this drainage line. There we go. birds are rather cheerfully heralding a slightly drier patch. As wonderful as this rain has been, it would be nice to see the sun again. It's been a couple of days since I last saw it. Let me just do a quick check around this corner, see if we can get a nice view of these Inyala coming through. There's 9 of them here. I think you can probably only see 8 shifting about. A really nice mixture, and you can see the perfect in-betweeners. You've got the nice beautiful tan colored females, and then these adolescent males who are just starting to get their full-on male coat. Ooh! It sounds as though Scott has found you a lovely rare gabar goshawk sighting, so let's head across and see those, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. And I've called you onto our vehicle. I need some help from the ornithologists out there. We had a brief glimpse of this bird earlier before it flew off, and it looked pitch black in coloration. There it goes again. Oh, I don't think it is a gabar goshawk, which was my initial guess. And sadly, the position we were in didn't allow for any of you guys to get a decent view either. Whew, interesting stuff. The reason why I rushed you back is because if it was a melanistic gabar goshawk, they're extremely rare. We don't get to see them very often. And basically, what melanistic means is it just means it's a pitch black form. So a black panther or a black leopard is essentially a melanistic one. Sorry, Andrew, I'll just send you.
Which one is it?
Here on the top right.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any white bars under its tail nor its wings. It also didn't have a red beak or red legs. So that writes off the gabar goshawk, and I'm at a loss for words as to what it could have been. I'm just going to page over 1 or 2 pages. And I'm wondering if it's not possibly a lesser spotted eagle, which has come back from its migration, and maybe it was just an optical illusion with these white clouds that made it look very black in color. Anyway, that one's going to be a mystery for me. I cannot hazard a call, so not too sure what to say, but maybe some of you guys will have a better idea than me, and feel free to send that through to us. What Nikki's just suggested is that we can play you a quick replay. Maybe they can slow it down a little bit so that you get to see it as it takes off and get to see underneath its wings. Not going to be an easy one to identify though, because of the very brief sighting we've had of it. But that's the great thing about being on these live safaris with all of you guys. We can get a lot of help, and you guys also get such great views from wherever you're watching in the world. So I'm hoping that you guys are going to come to the rescue again. Sorry to rush you away from Jamie and what sounded like quite an interesting Inyala sighting. So we're going to play you the clip quickly and have a look, see what you think, and we're going to carry on driving in the meantime. And if any of you can deduce what you think it may be, hashtag Safari, or again send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv.
Welcome back. Interesting news about that mystery bird. Sounds as though Scott has spotted something very, very unusual. Now, Wildebeest and I haven't yet spotted anything that unusual. Just as you went across, there was a drongo, a fork-tailed drongo, which is a type of bird that many of the regular viewers will be familiar with. And he was imitating the call of the long-tailed or the magpie shrike. I actually genuinely thought it was a magpie shrike until I looked at it. And it truly is quite astounding how they can do that, those birds. The most phenomenal mimics. I've left our family of Inyala for now. I'm on a mission to see what else we can find. Although we have left those Inyala for now, Clown Sharon, welcome to the Sunset Safari. It's great to have you aboard. And you would like to know if the Inyala coat gets darker as they get older. Maybe probably in much the same way as giraffe do. And as far as I can tell, no. If anything, it seems to be the opposite, at least for the females. Sometimes the lambs look a lot darker than their mothers when they are born, before lightening up a little bit with age, if they are females. Then obviously as the older youngsters that are male get older, they start to darken a little bit with age. But that's just them reaching their natural masculine coat. And then after that it stays pretty much the same color for the rest of their lives. The one thing that will change and will actually is the very tips of their horns. So for the male Inyala, they start to lighten at the tip, almost getting an ivory-like color. And that's the sign of a very healthy male in his prime. And you see that with all of the spiral-horned antelope. So from the bushbuck to the Inyala, kudu and eland, all four of them in that family, they'll start to get the ivory tips. Stopping for a blacksmith lapwing. See if he's going to stop and let us get a view of him. Just wanted to listen to the sound he's making because it's a wonderful background to the name, blacksmith lapwing. There you go. Can you hear that ticking, almost hammering sound? And for this beautiful black and white bird, that's what gives its name, the blacksmith lapwing. It sounds like a blacksmith's anvil trying to shape iron. And these little birds will be nesting soon. They make little shallow indents in the ground. Now, it seems as though, since we are talking about birds, that Scott has relocated his mystery bird. So let's see if we can try and figure out what it is, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. And it seems like the birds are getting a lot of action this afternoon. Oh, we found the same bird again here, and I'm still not too sure what to think of it. It's got very narrow stovepipe leggings over its legs, which are a bit obstructed by some branches in the foreground. And I'm leaning towards it being either a Wahlberg's eagle or a lesser spotted eagle. Well done there, Andrew. But can't be sure. Anyway, some of you may have come up with your own deductions as to what you think it may be. I'm going with now, after a second look, either a Wahlberg's eagle or a lesser spotted. But let me know your thoughts.
And while we get out of this tricky little predicament we got ourselves into here, Mavis would like to know if juvenile eagles or birds of prey will have the same colors as the adults, and most often they don't, and it can take many years for some of the raptors to get their adult plumage. In the case of the bat-allure, it can take about 8 years, and a lot of them will also take quite some time to get their adult plumage. And then Sharon in Pittsburgh mentioned that because of its size as well as the fact that it had feathered legs, it could, well, it is an eagle, and you're completely correct, Sharon. The birds of prey that lack feathers on their legs are not eagles. So that's one of the prerequisites to be an eagle. You have to have feathered legs, except if you are one of the snake eagles. They somehow got eagle status without having feathered legs. Well, very happy to hear that James in Kansas City agrees with one of my potential options, and he's going with the lesser spotted eagle from the coloration under the wings and the tail. So thanks for your contribution there, James. I think it certainly could be, and it would have been the first lesser spotted eagle I've seen since since they've rather returned from their migration. Another thing to look for on the lesser spotted eagle is that they do have patches on their upper wing and on their back, but it was difficult to see from those angles. Not too much going on here at the Treehouse waterhole, but sometimes it's nice just to stop, look around, listen, and see if we aren't missing anything or overlooking a camouflaged predator. And Julia in Houston's interested to know how much rain we got last night, and not enough to make a considerable difference to the level of this waterhole, that's for sure. It was very, very gentle pitter-patter drizzle, and it was hardly rain at the best of times, but even that thick, fine mist would have contributed to a little bit of moisture for the vegetation. But I would have said maybe 1 or 2 inches of rain, 1 inch maximum over the 24-hour period that it was wet. So not a lot, and we certainly need a lot more in the coming months. Now, I'm not sure if any of you were on drive with me when I stopped at this waterhole to allow you to take a screenshot so that we can do a time lapse of how the vegetation is changing in color, as well as how the water level is increasing at this waterhole. So I'm just going to stop in that same spot now, and hopefully some of you who were on that drive will be able to take another screenshot. And it was just about here. I'm going to have to probably help Andrew, but we had the weaver's nests, and that's something that's also going to change. And a little bit further to the right, so I think we had a bit of the main trunk of that tree. Oh, a little bit left, a little bit more. Perfect. So feel free to take some screenshots, and it's going to be remarkable to note the change in the water level, the weaver's nests that you can see bobbling up over there. Those are all last summer's stock, and the weavers, the village weavers, will be back soon with a hive of activity. We will spend a lot of time watching them build their nests. It's incredible how intricately they can weave blades of grass with using only their beak. Imagine having your hands tied behind your back and you're using your feet to hold on to a branch whilst using your mouth to weave something. That's what they do. Okay.
of you did take pictures last time we were here of that same scene, it would be wonderful if you could pop them onto Twitter with the older one and the more new one, so we can get an idea of how much it's changing. I find it incredible how quickly the trees react to the summer months, and I think often people overlook the massive changes in scenery. But if it is springtime where you are, even if it's autumn or fall, it's worth taking a close look at just how quickly things change. And if you pick one tree or one bush, then you should therefore be able to focus on the massive changes. I'm not sure if somebody's trying to call me. Somebody... on the Game Drive channel. Last station, who are you looking for? Well, maybe it's just playing up. That wouldn't be a first. To hear that some of you are still trying to work out what that eagle is that we saw earlier, the mystery eagle. And Diane's just made a comment that she thinks it was a Wahlberg. So we've got varying views from the different guests that are on the safari with us, and I am happy to sit on the fence. I'm glad that the two birds that I did think it was, one of the two, the lesser spotted or the Wahlberg's eagle, have both come up as your potential suggestions. I was just making sure there was no tracks on the road here, but it was an optical illusion, so nothing to show you. But it's important for first-time viewers to know that tracking the animals is something that we really have to invest a lot of time in. Otherwise we won't find you any good sightings, and it's the tracks of the animals that often lead us to some interesting sightings. I'm in a good spot. Andrew, can you see that funny branch up in the tree there? It's not the best angle, but it's not a funny branch, that's for sure. It's a tiny pearl-spotted owlet. Can you believe it, how small that little bird is? And as it turns its head away from us, now it's looking at us, but watch carefully, as it turns its head away, it's got false eyes on the back of its head. Let's see if it doesn't look away again. That's very characteristic of the pearl-spotted owlet. There it is. Awesome. Well, it seems like the predatory birds are showing us a really good time this afternoon. I'm interested to try and get you into a slightly better position though, so let's take a chance here. It could fly off. But in the same breath, we could get lucky and get a much closer view. No. There it goes. So, Andrew's going for it. And it's just great for you to get an idea of how small it is. It's probably only about 4 inches in height. And because we didn't get the best view of it, I'm going to just try and find the owls in the book for you. There we go. And I'm not sure exactly why it's flicking up its tail, maybe with excitement. So there's two tiny owlets that we could get confused with. One is the African barred owlets, and the other one is the one we saw, the pearl spotted. But as you can see, those clear false eyes on the back of the pearl spotted's head differentiates it from the very similar African barred owlets. And aren't they beautiful little birds? Quite ferocious predators, actually. And interestingly enough, I've seen a pearl spotted owlet with a kill of a laughing dove, which is a bird of basically the same size as itself. So that's just how hardcore they are. They can catch prey their own size. And those eyes on the back of its head will be a form of protection, I guess, from larger predators, as they'll feel that they are permanently being watched. No different to some of the moths that we are going to see as the summer months unfold, that have large black spots resembling eyes on their wings. And it can throw predators off, as they will not be sure what exactly this animal may be, even though it's just a tiny little moth. Those large eyes, or false eyes, on their wings can help to create a very good decoy to confuse their predators. About the village weavers that we are going to see at Treehouse Dam in the coming months, and Judith is interested to know if they will leave those old nests hanging there or if they'll tear them down. They may well tear down a few of them in order to create space on the prime spots, so that's in all likelihood what will happen. They'll strip down some of the older nests. Even with a lot of the moisture we're getting now, you'll find some of the older nests may simply begin to rot and break off naturally. But it'll be a combination of those two things. So well pointed out there, Judith, that's something we can expect to see. Interestingly, even the brand new nests that get built by the males, only the males build the nests and then invite the ladies in to come and have a look. And if the ladies agree and appreciate the workmanship of the male, they will go ahead and mate and occupy that nest. However, if they don't like the male's work, they will illustrate this quite clearly and rip the nest down. So, not easy being a male weaver if you're not a handyman. So that's something else that's quite interesting with the weavers. Now, we are slowly approaching the general area of where we could bump into this young male leopard I let you know about a bit earlier. So it's important that we all focus now. No more fooling about, and we are going to hopefully in the next few minutes find him. I'm going to turn onto another road. This road that we're heading on now is actually the southern boundary of Djuma, and it runs from the west to the east. And the road that he was actually seen on was the boundary between Djuma and Arathusa, which runs north-south. But we're not far from there, and on a cool day like this, he could have moved into this area quite easily. Surprise, I haven't seen one of you guys for a while. Just going to get into a slightly better spot. I did see one other zebra further off in the distance, but it's in much thicker vegetation, so this one will be our best one to view. And while we enjoy looking at it, we can answer a question from Hilma and her granddaughter, Yoella. Very happy to hear that you guys are watching. And they're interested for an update on Tingana and Kwatile, which were two leopards that, according to Yoella, who's just 6-year-old, were playing tag the other day. And Yoella's interested to know if they're still playing tag or if they've had enough of their fun. And as far as we know, they haven't been seen again. They could still be playing tag. They often play tag for 3 to 5 days. And then they get tired of playing and they'll take quite a long break before they play their next game. But we'll do our best to find them again for you. It was really interesting to watch them. There's the other zebra that I saw off behind this one in the foreground. And zebra love feeding on short green grass, which there's a multitude of at the moment. I'm just going to have to pull over the road quickly. We've got another game drive vehicle arriving. So we're going to make space for them. And it looks like Sean is a serious character from Arethusa. And he's creeping along very slowly here. And he's probably going to try and say something funny about me, but all the Arethusa guides do that, so it's the norm. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? Sean, how are you?
Delicious, and you?
Good, thanks. Hello, Reese.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks.
Well, thank you. What's up?
Very good, very good. So there's Sean, everyone, who you get to hear a lot about, but you don't often get to see him, and his tracker, Reese, who we are indebted for many, many sightings. Do you guys have any updates?
Birmingham.
Really? Okay. Is it the Birmingham with the funny eyes?
No. No, he's chilling with his other 3 brothers, white cloth open.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Because we had the Birminghams, one of them mating with, or at least attempting to mate with, what we thought was an Nkuhuma, but it could have been a Styx. We're not too sure. Any news on the 3 Nkuhumas that were floating around? No sign of them. Okay. All right.
Escape is the order of the day.
Yes, exactly. Okay, cool.
There's somewhere around there, but I'm sure on your side.
Maybe your side.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, Reese. Thanks, Sean. Have a
Go
great
on, stay
afternoon,
alive.
everyone. So a lot of you have probably noticed that we are doing something a little bit differently, especially if you've been following the show for quite some time now, and we've always had this awkward kind of moment where we've battled to be able to show you the guides that we're speaking to, but we've trying to come up with a solution to show you the guys. A lot of you come out here on safari, so it'll be nice to know who your potential guides may be, but we do try our best to obviously avoid the guests who may not be so happy about being on camera. So that's why the cameramen like Andrew now may have to pull off some quick maneuvers with the camera in order to not show all the guests. So just to fill you in on that. And I think Andrew did a great job there. So well done. Obviously it was made difficult because Sean had a passenger in the seat right next to him, which is usually not the case. Anyway, Hilma and Yoella, we are in the general area of where those leopards were last seen playing tag, so we'll make sure we let you know if we get any more updates on them. And some of you may have heard Reese, who is the tracker sitting up on that very peculiar seat on the hood of the vehicle. And it's the best place to be as a tracker. You've got a vantage points over the road to spot the tracks, and You're also a little bit distanced away from the chatter of the guides and the guests, so you can focus on scanning and searching, not only for tracks but also for animals. So that's why he was up front there. It's great fun traveling on the tracker seat. It's important to hold on tightly though, because obviously if you fall over, you're going to have the vehicle going over you, but that doesn't happen because everyone holds on to the seat very well. But it's something to bear in mind if you do ever get offered a ride on a tracker seat, make sure you hold on tight. As I was saying though, Reese, who is the tracker, mentioned that Opa, who is our resident mechanic, and he was obviously off at Arethusa fixing some of their vehicles, saw young Madiba or Sindile or Shadow's cub, whichever of those three names you would like to call him. So we're going to check around here very closely. And I've got good news, everyone. Jamie has found some male lion tracks. She thinks it's just tracks of one male, and she is off on foot now, exploring and searching to see if she can work out where that lion's gone. So exciting stuff happening there. And it was basically here that this young male leopard was seen, apparently heading into Djuma. So I'm just going to creep along here very slowly, and you guys can all help to scan in these bushes and see if we can't find him anywhere. He's incredibly well camouflaged, so don't look too closely for a leopard, look more for a strange outline or silhouette or shape of a leopard, not necessarily the colors or the flick of an ear or a tail. I'm trying to check carefully on the ground for any tracks. I can see Reese's boot marks here where he's driven around, where he's walked around, but the ground has become very, very hard after the rain that we've had. It kind of solidifies. No different. We're in luck. You can see Opa. So he's obviously on his way back from fixing the vehicles at Arethusa, and he's courteously stopping, but he doesn't realize that we need his help. So he's going to come across shortly, and let's get an update from the mechanic of all people. Morning, Mr. Opa.
How are you?
Very good.
Yeah.
So I hear you've got some good news for us. Did you see that young Madoda Ingwe here?
Yeah, I've already seen early in the morning somewhere.
On the other side of this river?
Yeah,
How far? Close or? Next to that pole?
Yeah.
Thanks, Opa. Thank you for your help. Okay, well, there we have it. First-hand information from the mechanic as to where he spotted the leopard. And one thing that I really love about life out on safari and in these remote places is that you forge friendships with people of all different walks of life and professions that find themselves out here, and it really does make life interesting having these friendships with people from so many different cultures and backgrounds to where we or yourself may have come from as an individual. So it was quite a while ago, it was this morning, but according to Opa, you heard him say good morning. You may have heard it, this diesel engine was droning quite loudly. But it was a few hours ago that this leopard was seen, and in this very cool weather, it could have moved off quite some distance. However, it's quite open here, and I think a good spot to off-road. It's not too thick. And let's see if we don't have any luck driving through here carefully. We may stop and listen to see if we can hear any alarm calls. So I think let's just stop here and scan around and listen. Maybe we'll get lucky and spot him here somewhere. And while we do that, we can stop and answer a question from Ashley in Missouri. And Ashley, glad to hear you watching, because there is indeed a Fireside Chat tonight. It will be for the last half an hour of the broadcast. So for those of you again who are new to the show, at the end of every week, every Sunday evening, for the last half an hour of the broadcast, what we do is we sit around a campfire, play you some highlights of the week, some of the clips, and also answer some of your questions about those clips and about anything you may be interested about, not necessarily pertaining to what we are doing on safari. I think it's worth just scanning this area. The leopard might be somewhere nearby. The termite mound on the right there might be a good place to check, Andrew. They love lying up on termite mounds. Nothing here, though. Nothing there. It's not sunny, so... Oh, are we in luck? I think we are. Some of you probably realized long before you actually got to see him that I'm a terrible actor. But I tried my best to make it a surprise for all of you. But we've got lucky, and we're going to get a little bit closer to this leopard. Can you believe it? Thanks, Opa. We owe him one. We actually owe him more than one. We owe him many, many favors for all the work he's done getting these vehicles up and running for us. And while we get a bit closer to the leopard, I just want to make sure I get onto the Game Drive channel to let the vehicles know. And Nikki is going to let Candace from the Sabi Sands know, as they do need to do, I think, some more treatments on this leopard. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that once we get into position. But basically, he's a young male, and regardless of his age, though, he managed to catch a domestic dog which had broken into the reserve from the surrounding communities. And the dog may very well have had rabies, and rabies is a very deadly disease, and it can cause a massive outbreak and cause harm to many, many animals, not only leopards, but a lot of wild animals that live out here. So they exterminated the dog and sent it off for tests to see if it was rabid, but in the meantime they've inoculated this leopard for rabies just in case. He might be playing a little bit of hide and seek with us, which is actually not normal for him. He's usually so relaxed. But we'll get you a great view shortly. Hello, young Sindile. Hello, boy. Well, maybe he's just had a lonely day out with his mother off hunting, and now he's decided to use us as his playmates. Look at how well he's camouflaged in there. I'm just playing with the game drive radio here. Give me a second. It appears to no longer be working. So I'm just going to turn it on and off and see if that changes anything. So, as I've said, he's a young male, and his mother could very well be off hunting. He's still reliant on her for meals. Having said that, though, he can catch and kill for himself. As I've just said, he caught and killed. Well, he didn't actually kill the dog, but he was probably in the process of getting there. And it's not uncommon for leopard cubs from the moment they're born to be left alone by their mother as they go out hunting. Interestingly, though, for this young male, His mother was seen mating about 3 weeks to a month ago, which means she's going to have a new generation to take care of, and he's going to take the back seat. And he's a little bit young to be doing that. He's just over a year of age, and usually anywhere from 18 months to 2 years will be their time that their mothers will give birth to the next generation, and therefore they will need to become independent. But just like humans, there's variations in the animals out here and the decisions they make, and it appears that she is going to give birth a little bit sooner than expected. What I'm guessing is going to happen is that he's just going to slot in as the older brother babysitter who stays with the young cubs when the mother's off hunting, and when she returns to call mainly her 2 little cubs to go and feed on carcasses, he's going to continue getting easy meals. I have seen that happen in the past. Let me see if the game drive channel's working now that I've turned it on and off. No. No luck. Well, maybe if Jamie's radio is working, she can just relay to the guides that we have found this leopard off Triple M, a couple of 100 meters north of the signboards. Nikki's just going to relay that message to her. Aren't we so lucky to have found him? I mean, we are parked probably 10 meters away at the moment, yet it's very, very difficult to see him. Hello, boy. He's got such a pretty face. Flawless for now, but that will change as he becomes big and old, or hopefully he becomes big and old. He's not quite there yet, as are most young leopards. They've got many obstacles that they face. Lions, other big male leopards, wild dogs. But he is on the road to becoming a big male. And won't it be wonderful for all of us involved to see him develop? Well, looks like he's had enough hide and seek for now. And now it's time to do some grooming and scratching behind the ear. Well, we've got 2 questions through, one from Caroline in Missouri and another one through from, I always get the names confused. Anyway, 2 of you are interested to know if the inoculation of this animal a few days ago has caused him to be a little bit more nervous of us. And yes, I think it may have given him a little bit of a fright and behavior that he's certainly not used to from the vehicles, but it's not unrecoverable. And already now we can see how he's relaxed with the vehicle and back to his normal self. And it's probably also because he has hardly been seen since that time, that nobody has been able to reassure him that we're not here to harm him, even though that event was abnormal to how we usually act around him, and understandably he can be a little bit more nervous of us after that. But even if we never saw him again as a result of inoculating him, it would be a better option than him dying of rabies. So, I mean, it is what it is. And I think it's certainly the right thing that has happened, and even if he does get a little bit nervous of us, we can reassure him over time that we don't mean trouble. And that was Sandra and Caroline who were interested to know about that. I'm not sure what he's seen behind us. I'm trying to look back and see if there's anything moving about there, any dwarf mongooses or potential prey for him. But can't see anything just yet. You may have also heard a little bit of loud squawking earlier. That was some lilac-breasted rollers having an argument with one another. And I'll be sure to point out the audio if we hear it again. Sadly, they were out of view, otherwise we would have tried to show them to you. I wonder when last his mother did make a kill for them. Even though he can catch his own small preys, never caught anything large that we're aware of, other than the domestic dog the other day. But that's not really fair prey. It doesn't belong out here, so we won't include that. But he's looking fairly hungry now, and we saw his mother hunting yesterday afternoon, unsuccessfully sadly, but had a great afternoon with her. And obviously she hasn't had any luck between now and then, otherwise she would have called him back. Let's see if we can reposition. Well, it's important that I warn some of you in advance that there is a chance that he may need to be inoculated again this afternoon. So whether we're around for that or not, I'm not too sure, but it is a reality of what needs to happen. On Twitter has just sent through another question, and she's interested to know when we will get back the rabies results from that dog. And it's out of our control and jurisdiction basically, Elise, so we're waiting to get that update from the Sabi Sands. I'm guessing that because they do want to inoculate him again, the results were positive for rabies. Well, that's just a guess. As far as I was told, you would have that initial inoculation as a backup in case, and if the dog did prove positive, then it would require a series of further inoculations. But let's just wait and see. Hopefully we'll have some more light on the matter before anything else happens to him. Isn't he such a beautiful animal? Yeah, he could do with the meal, so that's good prospects for us. He doesn't look full-bellied at all. Maybe he's going to make his second live kill. His first one was actually not a kill. He caught a gerbil and then released it. So he hasn't actually managed to kill anything live on screen. We've seen him with a dead francolin and a dead mongoose before. But maybe this afternoon things will change. Just going to loop ahead again. Always try and take the path of least resistance, which is sometimes easier than others. For now it's okay. But whatever trees you do see us driving over, don't be alarmed. We know which species can tolerate a bit of a battering and which species can't. I know exactly where he's heading, and that's a termite mound where we've seen him lying up before, which we will not be able to access from this side of the riverbed, so we may have to do a big loop around in order to get there. Oh, hang on. We've seen a francolin. I think he may try to be stalking it. Can you see it in there, Andrew? It's just down to our left at kind of 9 or 10. Now, Andrew's straight onto it. Let's watch closely here. I can't see the leopard anymore, but it was off to the right. I think he's dropped down into this riverbed, which is going to be a great place for him to stalk closer to these francolin. See if you can get him in that little gap down there in the riverbed. I think you might be able to, not the francolin, the leopard, to the right. He's to the right of the francolin. Just down in there. If you zoom in, you should be able to get him. And a little bit further right. Oh no, is that his tail there? Or am I dreaming? That might be his tail there. No, that's a branch. You know, I'm sending Andrew on a bit of a wild goose chase, but he is down in there somewhere. He's just so well camouflaged that it's difficult to see him, but I'm fairly certain that he is interested in trying to catch one of these francolins. He's not at all close to them for now. This is a crested francolin that appears to be on the go slow, taking a breather from feeding. And this young male leopard's best option for catching a francolin will be to lie in ambush and wait for the francolin to come feeding towards him slowly, and then he can just pounce on top of them. For him to move his big body towards them will be quite a feat. Oh, things are looking good. The leopard is in the thick vegetation directly where Andrew is, at the bottom right of your screen. You can kind of see that log. He's just in there. It's very difficult to see him though, but he is in there. I don't think Andrew's got the right angle from where he is elevated up on a slightly different position to me. But the leopard is hiding somewhere in there. I can see him with my binoculars, but for some reason you guys don't have the right angle. Apologies everyone, I've been pointing in the completely wrong direction, but I things are still looking up. These Franklin are generally feeding in his direction. And even though they're very small prey, leopards will feed on just about anything that they can overpower, even if it's catfish, tiny little fledglings, still too small to fly out of their nests, lizards, rodents, anything that they can overpower, and especially young males who are learning the ropes. Andrew, I've got a better bearing now of where he is, so that you see this buffalo thorn, this little one. Just if you go down on that angle into the riverbed, you'll find him in there. There he is. So not easy to see, but he's in there. You can just see him twitching. There he goes. So still quite some distance away from these Franklin, but he's just sitting patiently in there. And rather than blundering this opportunity, he's just going to wait and hope that these birds get a little bit closer. Oh, my game drive channel seems to be working again, so that's great news. I can get a hold of Andrew. Jamie has relayed the message to everyone, and I believe Andrew is on the way, but I just want to let him know that for now he's probably not going to have the best view. Andrew for Scots. Afternoon. I believe you're interested in making your way to this Ingwe. He's currently in a riverbed, not the best visual, the one just north of Triple M Gari Main Junction, but I do still have visual of him. Well, what a wonderful sighting of these Franklin this has turned into. They are such pretty birds. Okay, copy that, Andrew. Just let me know when you get closer by, and maybe you would have moved off. And one thing we can look forward to seeing is their tiny little chicks, which should be hatching in the coming months. Wonderful, wonderful colorations on those feathers. And it's using its beak to scuff up the earth, looking for any little insects and or grass seeds. Just like a chicken, they are omnivorous if they have the choice. This looks like a male. Notice how there's very large spurs growing out of the back of his legs. And that's indicative of a male, and he uses those spurs for fighting. Oh, elephant dung. What you going to find in there? Break it open. Come on. I think it's feeling embarrassed. But it'll maybe have a go at this bigger pile. There we go. Nothing wrong with eating elephant dung or anything that's living within it. So carry on, little crested Franklin. We won't tell anyone. Oh, it looks like the other one may have become jealous now and is also interested in the buffet. Andrew, if you don't mind trying to get close in on that new one to see if we can see any spurs on the back of its legs. You see, this is a happy pair. There's the female. She lacks the spurs on her legs. I hope you guys got a view of them. Surprisingly large spurs on the males. So this is his beautiful lady. And doesn't matter if you're male or female, elephant dung is a worthy source of finding little tidbits to nibble on. There you can see his large spurs again. that was great. Let's see if we can get a closer view of this leopard, which appears to be taking a bit of a snooze in the riverbed. How does that look, Andrew? You got him there? You can just reposition if need be. I think that should work. If you just go onto the red leaflet on your left, yeah. That's just about as good as it's going to get. Oh no, I've sent you on another wild goose chase. That's where I thought the leopard was. I was wrong.
Super camouflage, wow.
Oh, what's up with my angles? I haven't got you further enough forward. Well, you'd swear this was Andrew and my first safari together, but it's not. And I just... Ah, well done, Andrew. Now, even though this is an individual leopard cub, Kathy Ward would like to know what would have happened had this male had a sibling, be it male or female. When would they split up and start seeing less of one another? And it's a good question. It will vary greatly between the individual siblings and their mothers. There's just so many variables involved in that question, Kathy, that it's a difficult one to answer with one figure, but anywhere from 18 months to 2 years of age, when they do become independent and their mother forces them out, any stage from then in a typical environment or typical scenario would be when the siblings split up and start moving on their own. But that's not to say that they won't meet up and share kills with one another. Quarantine and Kanyuma, even at 2.5 years of age, we're still seeing co-feeding on kills. But anywhere from about 1.5 years would be the likely age to see siblings spending less and less time together. Let's hope that we do get a successful litter with more than one cub, sooner rather than later. We haven't had any luck with tiny little leopard cubs since we've been here, other than a kind of 2-minute sighting of Karula's last cub before it got eaten by a hyena. So that was a morning of hugely mixed emotions. The joy and jubilation of, oh, big stretch, joy and jubilation of finding her cubs for the first time, and then just minutes later the sadness of seeing it being killed by a hyena. Okay, well, we are going to now have to drive all the way around onto the other side of this riverbed in order to try and relocate this leopard. And we're going to send you across to Jamie while we do so for a change of scenery, and you can also check in with her on how her afternoon's been up in the northeastern reaches of Djuma. See you later.
Welcome back, and what wonderful news about young Sindile. I don't usually conduct my game drives in reverse, but I've just stopped for some scat that Wium just noticed. Just picked it up now. He repositioned to show you. Here we go. Now, I'm going to just hop out and have a look at these tracks and see if I can work out who this belonged to. There's two options in my mind at the moment. I just want to see if I can see the tracks. It's pretty tricky after these big rains. Let's see what we can spot. I'm going to try and be very careful about stepping on any of them. I'm almost inclined to say cheetah, just by looking at the smallish size of it. But it's already started to go white. If if we look here, it's starting to go white around the edges. I don't really want to put my hands on it. Grab a stick. Just have a look here. You can see the whiteness starting to creep in. But it is still moist. Not that wet though. So this isn't as fresh as I originally thought. And that would be why there's no tracks to see. I think the rain has washed them away. I'm guessing cheetah at the moment, but it's not that fresh. It's before our rains this morning. So probably, given the distance that cheetah can move in one day, probably very difficult. It's going to be very difficult for us to follow up on it, especially because we don't have a direction as to where that animal was going. Now, the other thing that I picked up on earlier while you were with Scott and the magical Shadows cub, I'm going to just keep calling him that until we have an official name, but I picked up on some lone male lion tracks heading down Gari Katla. Now, I'm really interested in who that could possibly be. They are not the freshest tracks. They are from sometime last night. And there are now apparently more tracks up towards Gari Gate. So I'm going to be looping around in this direction, just looping the block. I followed the tracks down into the drainage line, and they stopped at a big pan and had a sniff around, whoever he was. And he'd clearly been sniffing where the Birmingham boys had been. He was standing all over their tracks and their footprints. I'm a little bit bemused. There's a couple of options in my head. One of them is it's the one remaining Birmingham boy who wasn't seen this morning. So the Birmingham boys, in case Scott didn't give you that update, they were south of Gowrie Main on Vessel's property. Then the other option is it was one of the Salati males coming to have a sniff around at what's happening. And then the other option that I'm considering is that it could be Junior. Those are just some of the possibilities in my head. Of course, it could be a lion that none of us have ever seen before, but those are just some of the thoughts that are in my head. Trying to work it out, followed him into the drainage line and then lost the track somewhere in there. Unfortunately, just wasn't able to tell exactly where they had gone. So I've headed back towards Gowrie Gate and onto Albury's Road, partly because I want to see if the tracks come along here towards the Gowrie Gate, but also because I heard a report that there was a herd of elephants here. And since we have been having some rather elephant-themed drives over the last few days, I thought I'd catch that wonderful breeding herd. It seems to be the same breeding herd. I wanted to try and catch them before they cross north into Buffelshoek. So far, no sign of them, but keep your eyes peeled for big shapes of grey in the dark and the gloom. Our loyal viewers keep track not only of our drives out along Djuma, but also reports from the other guides. And of course, we're so reliant on hearing their information when some of the animals move across the boundaries into their area. Now, Sarah, who is 17 years old from Ohio, is definitely one of our regular and loyal viewers. Now, Sarah, you heard the report that... Oh, wow. Good, well spotted view. Try and get a nice position here. Is here okay for you? I don't want to disturb them. Yes, I think let's go backwards a little bit. We've got some rather sleepy, rather chilly giraffe. There we go. There we go. And there's a tiny, tiny little baby there. Look how good it is. Standing, its mom is lying down and the baby is standing behind, and baby is still even standing shorter than mom. How cute is that? Sorry, Sarah, I promise you I'll give you the update from your question in a moment. But this is just too cute for words. Come on, little one. Come say hello. I'm just going to grab my binoculars, which I'm not sure where I put them. I tried to hide them from the rain this morning, and I'm not sure where they went. Trying to just see how old this little one must be, but very, very cute. Ah, here they are. Too sweet. Hello. Look at you peeking out from behind Mommy. It's okay. Too sweet. And look at all of those oxpeckers all over the baby, even at such a young age. Now it's hard to tell. I'd say this little one, because its ossicones are, so the little horns on top of its head, because those are upright now, I would put it at about 2 months old maybe. Takes them, oh, so cute. Takes them about a month to straighten up. But just imagine, so much shorter than Mom, and Mom is lying down. Very well spotted, Wium. The wildebeest has got his eyes peeled this afternoon. Oh, Mom's leaning over to have a scratch. Aww. Oh, little bit of love there between Mom and baby. Oh, baby stuck her tongue in Mom's ear. Oh, that is so sweet. Look at all of that affection there. Oh, having a cuddle from Mom. I have never ever seen giraffes being so tender to their babies as this one's being. I've never seen this. Oh, cute man. That is too precious for words. I hope you guys are taking lots of screenshots. I know there's sticks in the way, but this is still just the most wonderful giraffe sighting with a baby I think I've ever seen. There's just something in the air in Djuma at the moment. Lots of babies, from that adorable baby elephant to this wonderful little baby giraffe. Usually when you see them, they're separate from their mothers by quite a distance, just because their moms don't want to draw attention to them. So this is really the first time I've ever seen such a show of affection between them. Oh, she's itchy. I've also never seen a giraffe do that either. Have a scratch, almost like a cat might do, with the back leg lifted up. That's incredible. I didn't even know they were capable of that. That is too precious. Now, it's not uncommon for that mom to be lying down like that. She's just taking a break. You generally don't see them with their heads resting on the ground, but they do fold their legs up underneath them and then lie down, settle down like that. Oh, baby. Come on, Mom. Ups. Here we go. Mom is now up. And did you see the way that she got up like that in that sort of wonky motion? The only other animal I've seen get up like that is a camel. And I wonder if baby's going to go and try and suckle now. I'm not sure how long Mom would have been lying down. Oh, tail to the face. Now, bottom off, that baby's tiny. Oh my word. Oh, and Mom's going to head off into the thick block. Now, I know that one of our viewers, Pinky Swear, you were keen to see some zebras and giraffe. Well, there you go. I hope you're enjoying probably one of the best giraffe sightings I think I've ever had, just by sheer cuteness factor. And look at its tiny short neck compared to its leg length. Such a funny little disproportionate thing baby giraffe are, even more so than the adults. I was looking at the ossicones a little bit earlier to try and age the giraffe, but the other thing I'm trying to see under the belly is whether or not it still has that umbilical cord attached to it. And Deborah, I know that you were asking it whether or not it still has that, and I think I did see something dangling down, and that puts this little baby, and just seeing its height now next to Mom, it's probably under a month old. So how magical is that? What a special little thing. Wow. Quite the most adorable giraffe sighting I think I've ever had. And just think about the incredible, I don't know, the whole incredible process of the creation and the birth of a baby giraffe. To be able to create that little baby, and then the poor thing, its first start to life is a 2-meter drop down from Mom, which I imagine must be quite the shock when you hit the ground. But this baby is then up and running within a couple of minutes, stable on those long, long legs, and as we've learned, with a deciduous hoof, a deciduous hoof capsule covering its hooves, so that it doesn't hurt its mother while it's in her stomach or in her uterus. But really, such a magical sighting. I absolutely loved. Thank you, Wildebeest, for that epic giraffe sighting. Really, truly magical. Now, these two have moved off into quite a thick block, and given that baby's age and the magical sighting we just had, we really don't want to go pushing after it to try and see it again. But we've had our very special tender moments, and that's what's so magical about this time of year. Even if we do get the odd drive that's rained out a little bit, we get a little bit soggy, everything's starting to go green. Lots of animals mating around the place, and then lots of these wonderful new births. So for somewhere in the region of 15 months, that mother carried that baby. It's such an investment for giraffe. And they only ever have one baby. It's always one baby. There's 1 or 2 recorded cases of births of twins. Most commonly people think they've seen giraffe twins just because the mother's a little bit further away and they can't see it. So they think that they're seeing twins with one mother, when in fact it's just one baby with one mother each. Leave this magical little giraffe sighting that we've just had. Scott has relocated young Shadow's cub. Let's see what he's seeing for now and get back to you a little bit later.
Well, so happy to hear that Jamie found you such a tiny baby giraffe. They are incredibly cute, and so is this young male. We have wedged ourselves into quite a thick area in order to get you this view of him, but at least we did manage to relocate him, and it looks like he's just taking some time to relax here now. Now the Sabi Sands management are with us in the sighting, deciding what to do next. They do plan on inoculating him. I haven't been able to speak to them clearly yet as to whether or not they've got any more results, how many more inoculations will need to be done. But whether we show you guys or not, that's up to you, whether you would like to see the next inoculation. I'm guessing a lot of you have already seen enough of that, but it's a democratic world that we live in. So we'll leave it up to you guys to decide whether you do want to watch the inoculation if the guys manage to get into a decent spot, or whether you don't.
Okay, I'm gonna move off here, so all right, thanks so much. Just gonna a few minutes and then I'll go.
And that chattering you can hear is Andrew letting the Sabi Sands know that he will get himself out of the way shortly. Obviously he's making the most of this beautiful sighting. They are tricky animals to come by, the leopards, and as a guide here you like to try and get as many of the elusive animals ticked off before your guest's last drive so that you don't end up in a panic, and that's exactly what Andrew is doing now.
I won't just gonna leave it and go. Because then a lion will wake him.
Well done to Andrew on camera for spotting this leopard. Otherwise, I certainly wouldn't have spotted it. And it gives you a good idea just of how thick this area is that we're in as Andrew zooms out. I'm sure the Sabi Sands, as soon as Andrew has moved out, are trying to get into a good spot here. There he goes. But it is going to be very tricky when shooting with a dart gun. If the dart hits any little twig or blade of grass, it will deflect in the wrong direction. So they're going to try their best to make sure they don't have any misfires, but that's what he thinks of this idea. So they've got their work cut out for them, the Sabi Sands, because he's taken a clear notice of the vehicle that they travel in, which thankfully is different to all of our vehicles, and on seeing them they have run off. So clever young leopard, and he wasn't interested in the Sabi Sands, and the Sabi Sands have just said to us he knows the vehicle, so I think they're going to have to disguise their vehicle, maybe a new paint job or something, in order to try and get closer to him. But what we're going to do is we are going to try and stay with him and get closer to him. I know this is a very difficult situation to wrap our heads around, but like I said earlier, the bottom line is if this animal is not treated, it will die. And not only will it die, it will potentially infect other animals, other leopards, other wild dogs. Who knows? The list is endless of how many animals could be infected by a rabies outbreak. So it's imperative that we do whatever it takes to inoculate him, even if it does mean giving him a little bit of a fright. And clearly you can see his behavior has become a little bit different, but would you rather have that or this young male leopard dying? I'm just going to let them know that I'm going to try and loop ahead. I'm just going to try and loop ahead and see if we can get with them again. And okay, cool. And the good news is we're going to send you back to Jamie, and that way we can focus on trying to help the Sabi Sands management get their job done here, and we'll be sure to keep you updated on any updates along the way.
Welcome back, and what a nice surprise as we were driving down the road away from the giraffe. Just maybe 50 meters down, I spotted the herd of elephants that we were looking for. Oof, and that young bull just sent quite the grassy scent in our direction. That was quite an impressive example of their digestive system at work, complete with gaseous exchange that occurs within their small intestine. So thank you for that, mister. He's quite at peace with himself. It is a very thick block, and most of the herd have moved off ahead of us, it seems. I'm not going to go trying to crash too far in, but at least we've got the visual of this young bull. I'm just sitting quietly for a moment just to try and get an idea or gauge where the rest of the herd is. And once again, the Ellie's showing preference for the newly sprouting baboon's tail plant. Hello, boy. Hello, big boy. The rest of the herd is feeling fairly camera shy, but we've got some who are going to come up to us in a moment. Not just yet. They're slowly making their way towards us. Look how beautiful tusks he's got. And those are nice and big and thick, even at his age, and he's quite young. I don't know, I'm guessing at maybe 12 years old. I think he's going to be rather large in the tusk department. There, big boy. Here we go. Onto the baboon's tail shoots. Completely relaxed. You can see how chilled out he is. Hey, big boy. And I read somewhere today that tusks can grow up to 7 inches a year, which is, what is that? That's about 15 centimeters in 1 year. And some of that obviously gets worn down in the digging motion that they do. But over the next, he's got another 40 to 50 years of life, during which those tusks are going to continue to grow. Oh, watch that trunk at work. Oh, baboon's tail plant gone. Apparently, along with our elephant. He's shifted away behind us. Now he is right up close, just behind us. He stopped right there, which kind of prevents me from repositioning the vehicle, just because I don't want to startle him in any way. He's still chomping away right behind us, quite happily, perfectly relaxed. I'm peering off into the bushes to see if we can spot any of the other members of the herd. And as he casually walks behind us, not too close, but he's just behind us, so we can't move at all. The rest of the herd is ahead somewhere in a sort of general that direction. There's quite a few moving through in here. I can hear them, I can't really see them. And then there's 1 or 2 members who are hiding out behind me and moving through. Here comes our young bull into view. There we go, coming through. not too sure if this is the same herd that we've been seeing over the last few days. I'd have to see one of the females that I can identify. Look at those incredible feet. Phenomenal to think how they walk right on the tips of their toes. Up to 6 or 7 tons of weight on the very tips of the phalanges, the sort of the finger-like and the toe-like bones. It's the most amazing structure. And there where he lifted his foot up so nicely for us, we could see those patterns of wrinkles that show up so beautifully clearly. Look, you can even see his toenails there. It's usually, they've got 4 toenails on the front, sometimes 5. You do occasionally see Ellies with 5 toenails. But really, one of the most amazing foot structures out here. Those toenails will definitely be kept worn down. And there's that magical instrument of the elephant's success. That trunk. I don't think I could ever get bored sitting and watching elephants. There's just so much to see. Look at the wrinkles on their skin. Now it looks to me, I'm just having a look at his tusks now that we've seen them. They're nice and thick and broad. And typically a female of this age, oh, baboon tail's flower's gone. A female of this age would have much, much thinner tusks. You can see how much more the one on his right-hand side, on the left of your screen, is much thicker but slightly shorter. I think, look at all those notches you can see as well from the branches. Hello, boy. Are we over your food? Look at that beautiful eye and those ever important eyelashes as a way of protecting him from any sticks that might come through. You can see just how close he's come. And we've got to the point where we are now observing a wall of elephant skin. Look at all the mud, the cracks. You can even see ants moving across him. Look at that incredible texture. It's almost prehistoric. And the veins in his ears, and those vein patterns that he's got running through his ears, those will stay the same throughout his life. And they'll be a perfect way of identifying him. Such phenomenal animals. The wrinkly elbows, which I think might be my favorite part. Thank you, big boy, for your kindness in allowing us the close perusal. You want to come say hi? Nope, completely distracted by the baboon's tail. How that intricate that little bit of trunk work was as he wrapped it around. He's been utilizing a combination of techniques here in his feeding on the baboon's tail. Sometimes he just strips the leaves. Other times, like right then, he just plucks the entire plant out. Stem and all. apparently makes for a very crunchy, very nutritious breakfast. Or lunch in this case. Dinner. Sorry, it's getting later than I thought. Time flies when you're having fun. One of the other females has come through a little bit. Using her feet combined with her trunk. Just going to be quiet for a moment as we listen to the crunching sounds that she's making. One coming up behind to see what Mom has found. Oh. And I've seen that a lot with the baby elephants over the last few days that we've spent quite a considerable amount of time watching them. They wait until Mom has found something good and then come rushing up to her to see what she's found and if it's better than whatever they're eating. They've suddenly realized that they've straggled behind the rest of the herd and it might be time to move on. There you go. It's almost like there was an invisible command there for him to turn and follow. I didn't hear anything, but he moved off almost immediately. He's given us the perfect opportunity to see if we can reposition. It is very, very thick in here, and I'm not going to go crashing after them to the point that I stress them out in any way. But let's see if we can try and relocate the rest of the herd. I'm actually going to think about... Oh, I just spotted something out of the corner of my eye. It's a kudu. It's quite far away behind us. Well, I lost my train of thought there for a moment. Okay, let's see if we can reposition ourselves and get a nice view of these ellies once again. They've all run away. Actually move across towards the road, so I'm going to do a U-turn and switch around and move back onto the road and then see if we can loop in from around the front of them. And while I do that, I got a really brilliant question from Tom. Now Tom was wondering if we can start to see the difference already in terms of their change of diet in their dung. So from what they were relying on over the last few weeks in the dry season with a lot of roots and bark systems trying to get all of the nutrients they can from there to the now fresh green grass shoots and these fresh baboon tail shoots that we've been seeing. And that's a really good idea. I'm going to see if I can try and grab hold of some fresh ellie dung for us to have a look to answer Tom's question, because yes, I think that you probably could, although it all kind of comes out the same color in the end. And I'll grab some old elephant dung as well, because there's plenty of that lying around, and we can have a look and see for ourselves. It's not something that I've personally noted, but I wouldn't be surprised if you could tell. A change of diet is bound to have some kind of effect on their dung. Let's try and loop around. I can still see them moving off in the distance, but they are tucked right in a very thick block. Well caught, wildebeest. Keep my eyes peeled for fresh ellie dung versus older ellie dung. But yes, Tom, I'm sure you could. What you will see over the next few months rather than weeks in terms of the change is they're going to start switching their diet to include a lot more in the way of grass, and that we will see clearly in the dung differences. But for now it might be a little bit more tricky because it's still leaf based. You can see them moving off in there. It's the sort of last stragglers that we were with. Just dark grey shapes in the bush. Amazing how 50 meters in they almost disappear off. There you go, you get that flash of movement. Earlier on in that sighting, we had that young bull very, very close to us, and we've actually had quite a few close encounters over the last few days with the elephant herds that we've been with. And Carol from New York, welcome to the Sunset Safari. It's great to have you. You were wondering how you determine a nice, relaxed elephant from one that is uncomfortable or one that makes me feel uncomfortable when it's around me. And most of it is to do with their body language and their actions. You can usually tell where an elephant's attention is focused. If they're feeding, their ears are flapping gently mind, their tails are slowly swinging, they're not looking too interested in what you're doing. That is what tells you you've got a relaxed elephant. If they are showing signs of displacement behavior, which is where they pretend to feed, they bring the food up to their mouths but they kind of drop it out and they look at you out of the corner of their eye, that's when you start to wonder. And then very often if they are slightly displeased with your presence, especially the females, they'll walk up to you with that "I'm bigger than you" look, with their ears open, their heads up, often looking down their noses at you. So a lot of it is very basic body language cues, but that also has to be read in conjunction with the knowledge of what that animal, the sort of the place of that animal in the herd dynamics. So yesterday with the young male, I wasn't worried at all. He was, although he came up to push his weight around and push boundaries, that is just what young bulls do. Trying to make sure I his tail. Although the Ellies do a perfectly good job of being destructive on that level as well. Stuck around that one. I'll leave it to the Ellies to have lunch here, or dinner, as wildebeest says. Stop here for the moment and let them come to us. And I'll finish up with Carol's question. And Carol, if it was a female, especially if she starts coming at you with that big posture, like that one with our tusks did yesterday on the Sunset Safari, that's when I start to not necessarily get nervous, but I'm very aware of the fact that I need to be careful of how I behave in the herd. But I also strongly feel that they give you the feeling as to how they're feeling with your presence. I don't know how to explain it. It's just a sense that you get from them. They're either relaxed or they're not relaxed, and you can just feel it. It's a combination of experience and spending time with them, and then just watching their body language. If I duck down now, let's just have a look at this little one. It chose to walk to us, which is the first sign of a relaxed elephant. We didn't come up to it. Sorry, not it, her. Just looking at her now. She's quite contentedly feeding. It's not too hot, so her ears aren't going too much, but she's barely given us a second glance. That little flap wasn't based at us, it was just repositioning her ears. You can see it perfectly clearly in that body language, that she's happy and content, no stress at all. And it's something that you learn. I'm sure that, Carol, you're familiar, because being in a city, you will be so familiar with the way that dogs show discomfort or cats show discomfort. And reading elephant behavior, although they are very different animals, is fairly similar. It's just about learning which cues to look for. stop to have a look at us and then move past. There we go. Feeding right up close to us. And it's always better in an elephant sighting to never directly approach them. So you never drive straight at them, you let them come to you. Hello, little one. Now she's probably not much younger than that young bull that we saw at the start of this sighting. And you can see the clear difference in terms of both their size and their horn, well, not their horn, their tusk growth. She's maybe a year or two younger than him. And at this point, if you are in a sighting with an elephant like this, completely close up to us, the most important thing to do is to keep your movements nice and slow, because although she's quite comfortable with us, if we were to jerk or if I was to lift my arm up, she'd immediately get a fright and run away from us. And of course we don't want that. I'm sure many of you are picking up the bird calls in the distance. There were magpie shrikes calling earlier, but I think that one in particular is a fork-tailed drongo who are ever present at elephant sightings. It's such a perfect place to come and catch insects. Now for me, it has been a week filled with elephant sightings. There's another female coming up here. She's going to move fairly close to wildebeest. She's going to stop and eat there. Now for me, it has really been quite the week of elephant sightings. Hello, my girl. But it's also been the most incredible week for all sightings. It really, really has. So don't forget to join us for Fireside Chat this evening for the last half an hour of drive. We've got so much to show you and to talk about, from those incredible mating leopards to all of the goings on with that Nkuhuma lioness and those 5 Birmingham boys and her fairly successful peacekeeping mission that she appears to have brokered. And if you guys do have any questions on those subjects that you would like to send through to us, then you can do so, and please do. You can send them through to #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. And we do really love hearing from you, and Fireside Chat just gives us those little additional moments to discuss the topics more in depth. Oh, lots of birds calling and lots of eddies all around us. Franklins have also started their evening chorus. Don't forget I'm here, big girl. Check that notch in her tusk. How cool is that? On the left-hand tusk, you can see clearly which tusk she favors to help her break branches. Here you can see where she's rubbed a groove in it. That one's perfectly smooth, and then you get that perfect notch. Even with the fault lines, she's close enough we can see the fault lines and striations in her tusks. Awesome. And there we go. One of those special females with a slightly shortened trunk, and look how coordinated she is with it. Even going for those tricky bits of baboon tail. And I always do have really soft spots for elephants like this one. You can see how close she's come to us. Hi, big girl. It's almost like she doesn't know we're here. She's come right up to us. Perfectly calm. Still eating her baboon's tail. She just decided that she wanted those bits. Thanks for that, my girl. Very cool. And there we have, in answer to Carol's question, the perfect example of how you can tell whether an elephant is relaxed. She walked up to us with absolutely no threatening signs in her body language, perfectly calm. She just wanted the patch of baboon tail that we happened to be right next to. And she was even kind enough that, although she wanted that bit right there, she was just going to stick herself slightly into a thorn tree to get it. And of course, we all really do have soft spots for those elephants like her with that slightly shortened trunk. I don't think it's the same one that I've seen before. I think this is a different elephant. And unfortunately, it is one of those sad things that was almost inevitably caused in her younger years by getting caught in a human-laid snare. And it got to the point where it tightened on her trunk and cut off the blood supply. And she lost the dexterous tips of her trunk. But you can see she's perfectly healthy. She's keeping herself perfectly well fed. She's reached a nice mature age. There's absolutely nothing wrong with her. It just might take her a little bit longer to wrap her trunk around the baboon's tail. I'm going to pretend that I'm not feeling that. Wildebeest, we're just going to pretend it's not drizzling. It's definitely not happening. If we pretend, then it's absolutely fine. Enough now. I mean, it's been wonderful, but you can hold off for just that little bit longer. I'm just checking around me to see what our Ellies are up to. We've got no more Ellies in front of us. They are all now right behind us where Wium can't film. So let's head across to Scott to see what he's been up to, and I will catch up with you when I have repositioned.
Welcome back, everyone, and can you believe your luck with Jamie and Wium with that elephant so close to the vehicle? Awesome stuff. And Andrew and I have just given up the search for Sindile, who, as you saw, ran off from that vehicle. And I guess you can't blame him at all, really, for that. I did chat with the Sabi Sands and get a better idea of what the plans are and what this whole process entails. And we're going to discuss that at the Fireside Chats a little bit later and fill you in on all the info that they could give me. It is a great pity that this has to happen, but the world we live in is far from perfect, and it's just one of those things, really. We should be back on the road in about a couple of minutes, but I'm trying to take the easiest route there. And let's hope this drizzle that has just descended upon us doesn't get too serious. But even if it does, we'll still be able to perform our chat with you guys. It just may not be around a fireplace, it may be off the hood of a vehicle. But it's just a different opportunity for us to get together and chat and play you some wonderful highlights. We've been incredibly lucky with the sightings we've had this week. And the girls in Final Control, Jess and Nikki, have put together some wonderful slow motion clips of Tingana and Kwatile mating. There's also some clips of the Birmingham boys trying to understand the art of mating with that one lioness. Quick link, we need to send you across to something really cute. See you later.
It is straight to the den site.
Nice.
You will absolutely not believe this, because I don't. That is incredible. We've got our hyena den site, or at least the location of our hyena den site. I didn't even see it. I was looking back at the elephants, and Nikki and FC actually pointed out, she said to me, what are these hyena doing? And they've stumbled into the elephant sighting, and I believe these elephants have just led us to wherever the den is. That is so cool. I can't believe that. Just by sheer chance on Aubrey's Road, we have accidentally relocated the hyena den. Now the little ones just moved off further away from the Ellies. They've come out to investigate now that the elephants have moved away, and they are sniffing the air. I did see the younger one earlier. We've now got what looks to be the oldest cub. It's hard to tell. I haven't seen them in a while, and they grow so fast. But I cannot believe this happened. Totally fortuitous. Unbelievable. Hello, little one. Are you coming to say hello? Has it been a while since you've seen cars? Because you guys have been sneaky and disappeared. Well, that's a live safari for you. He's gone in front of my car. What are you doing? It is just the nature of the live safari. You just never know what to expect. Well, I certainly didn't expect that. That has been quite the surprise. I think that made my evening. There we go. Well spotted, Wium. That little one, who is now looking much bigger since we last saw it. Right, now, here's where the hard work begins. We've got our starting position. Now, where is their den? Because they're bold enough and big enough now. And the older one's leading the younger one into mischief. Whoop, gone. Where are you going? Where are you disappearing off to? But now we have to figure out exactly where it is that their den site is. I think it's likely that there's an adult around somewhere, just by how bold they're being. I just still can't get over this. That is unbelievable. Look how he's looking at the elephants. The elephants are just out of view, but they came out of curiosity. Okay, well, let's watch this little one disappear up the path and then loop around and follow them and try and figure out exactly where this den site has been hiding. How exciting is that? Totally by chance. We knew they were in this area, or we guessed they were in this area, but I certainly didn't expect to be led to a hyena den by elephants. That's definitely a first for me. Let's try and do this nice and carefully so that I don't scare them in any way, but that we can figure out exactly where this den site is. We're looking for a big termite mound with lots of holes in it. This is a perfect game path for them. There's the little one there. Let's see where he's going. They're going to, there's a very good chance they are going to lead us right to the den. Keep this nice and slow. We're looking for, as I said, termite mounds with big holes, nibbled sticks around them, lots of hyena dung. Yep, there we go. The latrine that marks the spot. The white evidence of hyena dung. Our little one's just skittered off that way.
Big one.
You've got a big one.
Right behind us.
Wium, you're a genius. Okay. Let's figure this out. Now there's a termite mound there, there's a termite mound here. See the little one there. Alright, if this is their den, I'm going to try and give it a bit of a berth. There's definitely a good chance we're going to, yep, this looks about right. That little hole there. Let's just stop here for a moment and see if anybody pops out. I'm looking to see what evidence there is around. It definitely looks like a freshly activated hole. There we go, another one's coming out to peek around the side. Hello? Is this where you guys have been hiding, hey? Aren't you sneaky? Coming up once again to say hello. Oh, this has been an exciting afternoon for you. Elephants are now people and cars to chew on. Oh, what's that little one got? A hoof. You found a hoof. Well done. Look how big it's looking. Spots and everything. And a perfect chew toy for a growing hyena. Nope, you may not have that. I'm going to run around. There's probably another entrance behind there. There we go, as they disappear around. I'm just investigating my options here. Now, obviously in terms of hyena den etiquette, I'm not going to be driving right on top of them. I think probably our best approach is going to be to loop around the other side, so behind the den. I'm almost certain that this is our nice new fresh den site. This is so cool. What a special moment. Liam, are you going to GPS where we are? Perfect, thank you. Well, that was a nice surprise. Apparently, Wium saw an adult. I didn't, but Wium saw an adult just off here, so they are around. And that would explain the drag mark that Aubrey said he saw earlier, coming from Buffelshoek to the south. Sorry, Wium, just dodge that tree. It's not going to be the easiest den to get into. You're going to have to do a bit of 20-point turns to loop around. But still, how amazing is this? Let's go this way. Now we're just on Aubrey's Road, which is exactly where Tax said he saw the hyena. Oh, hello, thorn tree. Now hopefully, because they only just moved in the last 2 weeks, they've only moved their den site recently, hopefully they're going to stick around at this den for a little bit longer. It's in a nicer position than that other one was. The one on Gallagher Shortcut was very, very tricky to get into. This one's a little bit tricky, but we're going to manage it. We just have to take a slightly longer route around. You can see them now lying outside the entrance to the den, so they are there. This is definitely the right termite mound. Ducks and branches. Whoop. Just acquired a log under the wheel. We're okay though. Wow, what a nice surprise. Pardon? It's a very nice neighborhood. Comes with siblings, there's the mom. Let me stop here to give you, just so that you can orientate yourself. I think Wildebeest is right. They've moved to the nice neighborhood. Here we go. Just to give you a bit of orientation before I find us a nice view, I'm going to have to stick my nose in. There's quite a lot of fallen trees. They really have found a perfectly protected area. What looks like 3 little ones and one adult. In fact, that looks like an adult to me, sorry. Slightly balding. And there's Mom the matriarch off to the right. We're definitely missing 2 cubs. But it could be that as things started to get a little bit crowded, the one mother decided to move to a different den site. I don't think that's unheard of, especially at the age that the cubs are getting to. So one was born, the oldest one was born at the end of December, which would make it about 9 months old. The twins, who were just below that we used to see, were around 7 months old, so born in February. And then the little one, who's starting to look not so little. Oh, hold on, I think there is another one there. Okay, let me try and reposition so we can see. There we go, I can see little cub legs moving. Okay, so we are only missing one cub, as far as I can tell. There, I can see that one suckling there with mom. Oh, too cute. What a nice moment. With these guys moving, basically I think I saw them maybe once or twice at the den site on Gallagher Shortcut before they moved again. So I'd only just got back and they moved again. They'd only been there for about 2 weeks. And John from Atlanta, welcome to the Sunset Safari. I hope you're as thrilled as I am about finding the new active den site. This has been an awesome twist to the evening. Now John was wondering how often they move. And that depends on the circumstances and it depends on the den. Now, the cubs are getting a little bit larger, so obviously the pest build-up, the amount of waste matter that's building up around the den is increasing the bigger that they get. So it means that they might have to move a little bit more frequently. But it also could have been that, especially after the big rains, that den got a little bit waterlogged and a bit unpleasant for them. And they decided to just head out and find somewhere on slightly more open, slightly higher ground, because that den was almost on a drainage line. So it might have been that water was seeping down towards the drainage line, just making a rather uncomfortable situation. So it just depends on the circumstances as well as the level of parasite and sort of smell build-up that's happening around the den. What I want to do is try and stick my nose in here, the nose of the vehicle that is, not my nose. I know exactly how pungent a hyena den is. I don't need to be any closer to smell it. But I want to try and reposition so we can get a nice view. This is never going to be an easy den to get into just because of the number of fallen logs, but still such a thrill to have found it. I think that's about as good as we're going to get for now. We can have a look. Just going to position the light so we can have some light as it starts to get a bit darker. And we're just looking at these tiny little cubs. I cannot believe how much the littlest one has grown. It is mind-boggling. But just looking at their sizes, Judith from North Carolina was wondering if I could compare it to a breed of dog. Judith, give me a moment to just think about that. I'm just trying to work it out in my head. Adult female hyenas are big. They're a good over 120 pounds or 60 kilograms. So another adult coming in on the path. We found their very regularly used pathway. That's perfect. I'll duck my head down. There we go. I've got a nice example of an adult coming in. And I'd probably say something like just smaller than a bull mastiff. They can be very heavy animals. I'm trying to think of a good example. Maybe about the height of a German Shepherd, but they are very bulky. And the little ones, despite their size, are very, very, stockily built. They're compact little creatures. Oh, a little bit of a tussle there. Here we go. Some greetings happening. That was interesting. Quite a dominant display from that newcomer. And interestingly enough, the female that we think of as the matriarch has just run away. I doubt she would have gone far, but she's just disappeared off into the bush. That's very interesting. Oh, big yawn. Now we have to try and puzzle out what's happening here. The noises that you were hearing were coming both... Actually, those noises that you're hearing now are coming from the adult lying down. The female who was suckling the cub. Genital sniffing going on all around. That's very typical of hyena greeting ceremonies. Oh, little cub's not sticking around to get a nip. There's the one lying down with a piercing in her ear. That's the mother of the twins. I'm not too sure who this adult is who's come in, but she's come in with very dominant body language. I didn't see the scar on her back. Chasing one of the cubs off. And now she's gone off, I think, to look for that other adult who was lying down on the side of the den, who I thought was the youngest cub's mother, who we've always suspected to be the matriarch. Just listening to their sounds. They're going to come back towards the den, which is why I'm not rushing off to reposition. They're going to move back towards us, and if I go crashing through that thick block, it's going to disturb them. You can see this one mother is still very alert to whatever's happening, and she's up. Wow. Here we go. Awesome stuff. Those territorial contact calls, that typical whooping sound of the adult females, letting everybody know that this is where they are and this is their turf. And not everybody, I'm talking specifically about other hyena clans, and these clans are very territorial. What a wonderful, lucky surprise this has been. I know that Scott is busy setting up for Fireside Chat, but we're going to try and stay here for as long as possible, just to get an idea as to what's happening. I wonder if that little cub is going to follow the others. If it does disappear, then I'm going to try and relocate them. It is very, very thick in there. I don't want to go bashing around with young cubs. I'm going to try and loop around rather. But even that in itself is an interesting sighting. Whoop, up we go. Over the logs. Hop, hop. Okay, let me see if I can relocate wherever they've gone. They've moved into a very, very thick block. Let's try and loop around, otherwise we'll come back to the den site. The cubs are not going to go too far, especially as it starts to get dark. They'll stick around here, but let's see if we can relocate them. And if we can't, then we've always got the wonderful prospect of Fireside Chat. Let's just see if we can catch up with them. Either way, we've had a momentous breakthrough today. Hyena den relocated. Let's try and do this carefully. At least it is slightly more open than the previous one that they chose on Gallagher Shortcut. They've got good taste in den sites. And just to give you a rough idea as to distance as well, in terms of how far they've moved from the original den that was on Philemon's cut line and then to the Gallagher shortcut den. I am looping around so that we don't make this noise close to the cubs. Now the Philemon's cut line den to the Gallagher shortcut den was probably the greatest distance that they moved. That was about maybe 3 kilometers. I'd have to double check on my map. In terms of this distance, it's much, much shorter. They've moved maybe 700 meters from that den on Gallagher shortcut, so not too far. And I strongly suspect that in this particular case, the move was related to the rain. They moved because that den was on a drainage line, it's getting waterlogged, and it was time to go. It's interesting how much we've learned from just a few months of watching active hyena dens. How cool is that? Here we go, there's one coming towards us actually. Or is it going to stop? This is the thick block that I wanted to skirt. I didn't want to move right up to them, just because they do have about 3 cubs wandering around. We don't want to stress them out in any way. Hello, little one. Repositioning our light so that we can see a little bit better. It is so great to see these cubs again. I really have missed them. For those of you who don't know, spotted hyena are probably my favorite animals, or at least my favorite predators out here, just because they have such a level of curiosity and they are so entertaining. Down here. What you up to, little one? I love the way that they'll come up and investigate your wheels and sometimes even take a bite out of them. Listen, that's bad manners, don't chew my tire. Hello. That is what I love the most about them. They just have so much going on in terms of their social structure and their social communication. Such entertaining little animals. They really are phenomenal. Now the rest of the adults have disappeared. I think I can see one through the bush there. That's, I think, where this little cub is looking. I'm going to try and do a loop around and see if we can get to them. And if we can't do that, then we will head across to Fireside Chat. I will GPS the den location and then head across to Fireside Chat. Either way, we've made a major breakthrough and we've got a place to start for the sunrise safari. Let me try and reposition one last time and see what's happening with our hyenas. Just since we haven't seen them in such a long time. It's so exciting. In the distance, just around this fallen knobthorn. And that was definitely a good way to end an afternoon. There we go. One last look at this peaceful family scene and the hyenas that we haven't seen in such a long time. And if you are new to our live safaris, maybe you're joining us for the first time, the fact that we have found this hyena den on their active site means that we can spend a lot more time watching them and getting to learn the different dynamics that they have in this area. And it really is one of the most entertaining animals to watch. Still suckling away. And this little one will continue to nurse from his mother right up until a year, even a year and a half, depending on how quickly or how high-ranking, rather, the mother is. So those cubs of high-ranking females tend to be reliant on their milk for much longer than the lower-ranking females. But they'll also, at this age, they're also going to start getting food, or supplementing their food with meat, rather, which is why we're getting a lot more drag marks in the area, apparently. There's a couple of cubs off to there. But what a fascinating time we have had with these hyenas. I never ever thought that we'd find an elephant sighting and then find a hyena den through that. It really has been quite phenomenal. What a nice surprise. I'm going to GPS the coordinates of this den so that we know exactly where to start looking for tomorrow morning's sunrise safari. You'd be surprised how easy it is to forget exactly where you were or where you've been when you're traveling around in the dark without any navigational tools in the bush. But since we have found them and they are so peaceful and relaxed, I think for now we're going to leave them to their evening activities and head across to Scott at Fireside Chat. I will catch up with you a few moments at Fireside Chat. I just need to make my way in that direction. And guys, if you do have any questions about leopards mating or whatever's happening with that Nkahuma lioness and the Birmingham boys, feel free to send them through to us. We're keen to hear your thoughts and opinions, and we of course are keen to discuss everything that's happening there. Anyway, from WildEarth and myself, and a big thank you to WildEarth for spotting all kinds of things on this afternoon sunset safari, I say a big thank you. and we will catch you all for Fireside Chat. See you soon.
Good evening and riparile, which means good evening in the local language Xitsonga or Shangaan. And isn't it a beautiful evening? The drizzle has stayed away. Thankfully, at one stage, Andrew and myself thought we were going to be leaning on the hood of the vehicles doing this procedure, but that wouldn't have been the same as being around the fire, and it's very, very good to have you with us here. Well done to Jamie for finding the hyena den site. What a great surprise that is to top off an incredible week here at Djuma and Arathusa. We've been spoilt with an array of different sightings. A lot of love has been in the air, some with the lions, some with the leopards, and Jamie even saw some Wahlberg's eagles mating. I'm not sure if we managed to rush you across there in time, but there certainly, like I say, is love in the air, and we are going to be playing you some clips of the love that we managed to capture between the lion as well as the leopard. But we're probably going to start off with the leopard clips while Jamie makes her way here. It started off with a big surprise. One afternoon we headed out, not sure what to expect finding, and we went into an area where no one really had searched that morning. And Jean and myself found some tracks of a female leopard and a male leopard, and I thought to myself, these surely are too big to be Sindile's tracks. That's the one-year-old male we got to see briefly this afternoon. And anyway, those tracks led us eventually to Kwatile and Tingana. And then the mating started, and it was a marathon. We spent the whole afternoon with them then, and the whole next day, both morning drive and afternoon drive, with multiple shows of the different copulations and how aggressive and intense that can be. A lot of vocalizing, a lot of flying paws as they lashed out at one another, and some great quality footage. And once we have had a look at those clips, we're going to move on to the Birmingham males who are trying to learn how to mate with the one lioness. We're not actually entirely sure if it's an Nkuhuma lioness or a Styx lioness, but we feel that it is an Nkuhuma lioness, but that could be a little bit of a twist in the tail later on. So some exciting stuff in terms of highlights. The great thing about the highlights is that they are going to be played, some of them at least, in slow motion. And as much as we love the live safari experience, and it's what we live for, we do appreciate the benefits of slowing something down and replaying it to you, and you get a true idea of how agile they are and how close these flaying paws got to one another as they dismounted from their copulations. Jamie shouldn't be too long until she gets here, but like I said, let's start off with a clip of the leopards and the mating. Take a close look. There's some incredible footage of not only the mating but also the seductive dance that Kwatile had to perform in order to entice Tingana into mating with her. It is the most intense seducing that I have ever seen a leopard have to perform, and she really does do it quite well, I think. Enjoy the clips, and we will see you shortly afterwards.
On your side of the road, here she comes, here she comes. Can you believe how lucky we are? That was crazy. They were facing us perfectly.
Well, I'm sure a lot of you loved those clips. If you weren't there to see it live, or even if you were, and like I said, didn't see the slow motion shots, I'm sure you appreciated them very much. We certainly love looking back through them. And aren't we so lucky to have seen a sighting of that quality? I mean, just the fact that we get to see leopards mating up close and personal like we do is one thing. But the quality of this specific encounter, or encounters rather, over the 2 days that we did follow them, was like nothing I've ever seen before. And apologies for my camera shutter clicking away in the background, but the reason for that was because, like I've said, I've never seen anything quite as intense and exciting as their mating was. Usually the female will always have to seduce the male, but to not so much of a degree, and in the 15 or 20 times that I have seen leopard mating. And who knows why Tingana was taking so much hard work to convince into mating. Like I said, it's usually the males that require the work, but not as much as that. But I guess by the end of it all, on the last evening, he was absolutely fatigued, as was she, and we discussed that whilst out on the drives. Who do you think has the harder job in that mating? Is it the female who has to do that intense dance, or is it the male who has to do the mounting? I'm not too sure. I'm actually convinced that it's the female that burns more energy over that whole period. Interestingly, she, unlike some leopards, would only mate kind of 3 times every 15 to 20 minutes, whereas usually females that I've watched have got a more kind of regular interval pattern between the matings. But she kind of had a method of her own, and that was to wait a while and then 2 or 3 quick copulations and then onto her back, rolling around, and then a little sleep, and then back to mating. Anyway, we certainly were very lucky. I think it's the best footage we have managed to capture of leopards mating. The first time and the closest we got to it was actually with that same female leopard called Kwatile, but it was with a different male. And back then, Mvula was dominant over this territory. That was before Tingana came in and pushed him further to the east and to the north. But we didn't actually get to see any copulations. We were certain they were mating. We had the audio for a full day before we actually managed to find them. And by the time we got to them, the lions had chased them up the tree, so all the mating had to go on standby for a short time, and by then it was the end of that evening safari. Anyway, interesting stuff that we did see that leopard a few months back trying to mate, but I'm not sure which other leopards we have seen mating. Oh, I guess Shadow not too long ago, probably 3 weeks ago, also with Tingana, and I guess we could look at that as an example. Shadow didn't have to do nearly as much work to convince Tingana into mating, but we will never know the answer to why Tingana didn't quite like Kwatile. Maybe it's because he mated with her fairly recently, I think maybe 2 months ago. Hard to say. I think it's good just to take a moment now to stop and listen. I can hear some scops owls calling nearby, and listen closely. Every 4 seconds they will make their call. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was me, but now listen carefully. I'm going to keep quiet for a few seconds. Well, isn't that beautiful to listen to those owls? Pity we couldn't share anything else. Earlier on we got really excited. We had one of the handheld radios open on the hood of a vehicle so we could communicate with Nikki and Jess in the final control room. And when the hyena was vocalizing at the den site, she keyed her mic in final control, and that audio came through here, and we were all looking around excitedly expecting to be a hyena just a few meters away, but it was the radio that was fooling us. So that was a little bit of a behind-the-scenes joke that the directors pulled on the crew here at the Fireside. Well, Joyce in New Hampshire, good to have you around the fire with us. And like you heard, it was Shadow that mated with Tingana probably 3 weeks ago, maybe a bit more than that now. And Joyce is interested to know how that will have an effect on Shadow's cubs. Will Tingana have to extend his territory? Well, to be honest, Joyce, I think Shadow's done a great job, because she not only mated with Tingana, that was for the first 3 days. The next 2 days after she left him, she was seen mating with the Anderson male. So she was very wise there, because now both those males are going to think that they are the fathers to her cubs. Even though she spends more time predominantly in Tingana's territory, her territory used to go into what is now the Anderson males. And what's important to understand is that a male leopard will have a large territory. Within that territory could be 3, 4, 5 females who all compete between one another for their territory. But one of those females may be on the boundary of 2 males. So it may not be that she's landlocked or encompassed by females in any one male's territory. It may be on the fringe, so she could expect to see 2 males, and that's exactly what's happened in the case of Shadow, and she's done the right thing by mating with both of them. Whether it will make a difference in the end, who knows? Maybe another young male leopard could come through. The odds are stacked so highly against leopard cubs. That's why a lot of mother leopards don't do too well at raising every litter. So Kwatile hasn't been hugely successful, neither has Shadow. Shadow, the closest she's come is with young Sindile, who we got to see a little bit earlier, and that's her 6th litter, and it's the first time she's got one of the cubs to semi-adulthood. Good news, I've just heard Jamie Patterson arriving, so she'll be joining us shortly once she's sorted out all of her mics and earpieces and all that jazz. And you can... And on the topic of Tingana and Mvula, Laura's just asked or mentioned that Mvula left his territory and gave it up quite easily. Well, as far as we've seen, Laura, there was no confrontation. So yes, we can assume that he gave it up easily, but we don't know if they had a battle. We don't know exactly what went on. And a lot of the time, Archer, nobody knows. Not us, not the other guides. So much happens after dark that we can only hypothesize about what we think has happened, but we'll never be quite sure. I do agree, though, he moved out, and in quite a short space of time, he appears to have not been interested in coming back. But again, that's simply because we haven't seen him. It's not to say that he hasn't been here. And I guess Tingana may have done exactly the same thing with the Anderson male. I mean, there weren't any physical confrontations or battles documented, only vocal demonstrations of size and strength where they're seen pacing up alongside one another. We got into one sighting where there was both Tingana and the Anderson male 20 meters from one another, but all we got to see was Tingana deeply growling towards the Anderson male, and that was it. I think a lot of the battles do actually get solved without any physical combat, although there are some outrageous clips of how intense male leopard fight can be. It can end in the death. It's actually quite sad to watch, because the males get so tired from fighting with one another that they end up flopping onto the ground just meters apart, looking at one another, catching their breath before they can go again on the next round. And I've only seen that on video. I've never seen it live, but with the rate things are going with Anderson, Tingana and Mvula, who knows, maybe one of them will eventually have enough and decide that they need to fight for whatever land remains for them. Just going to stoke the fire quickly.
Hello, Scott.
Oh, good evening, Jamil.
I'm sorry for the delay.
No problem.
Yep. Well, we found the hyena den,
Very
which
well
is
done.
awesome news. Hi,
Cool.
guys. Sorry, we had quite the distance to travel.
No worries. We've repositioned
I
the
can see
seating
that.
ever so
I can
slightly
see
as the
that.
smoke was causing trouble
Yeah,
earlier.
well, last Fireside Chat, the tears were streaming down my face. I was sitting in the smoke. So I know exactly how that goes. I'm glad we've repositioned away from that.
Good. Well, just to get you up to speed, we have played the leopard clips,
Okay.
and we've been discussing what may happen with, or, you know, why has Mvula given up his territory without any serious kind of a fight. But like I mentioned, it's not that they didn't have a fight, it's just that we may have not been there to see it. But certainly some interesting stuff
So hard
happening
to
there.
tell exactly what's happened. You know, so much goes on at the odd hours of the night that we just would never have heard about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we have had a really, really interesting week worth of sightings. I mean, I missed out on not missed out actually, but I didn't see too much of the mating. I saw the introduction to it, so when Kwatile was trying to seduce Tingana and get him interested in her, and she was doing that whole lap dance routine, but still without any action from him. So it was so nice for me to know that she was actually getting the response that she did need, especially after we've sort of heard tell that there's a good chance she had small cubs that she's then lost. It's great to see that there's probably some future babies on the way.
Yes, and we haven't ever been able to film babies for a prolonged period of time, or baby leopards at least. So that's something that we're hoping for. Maybe Karula will be another one that could surprise us with some cubs.
Fingers crossed.
And I mean, we've got Karula, who was seen mating over a month ago in Buffelshoek. Now Shadow 3 weeks ago roughly now. Kwatile, who we don't see that much, but who knows, territories change, and she might spend more time on Djuma in the future. Speaking again of territories and Kwatile, we've got a question through from Ellen, and it's a good one. It's almost a theory, not necessarily a question. And she says that maybe Kwatile was mating so intensely with Tingana because she was in another female leopard's territory, and maybe she just wanted to get the job done. So Jamie, I don't know what you think.
I think that's a very interesting theory. It's a strong possibility. I mean, from what I could see and what I heard about that sighting, it was so frequent. Every 2 or 3 minutes she was back up again, then a small break, and then all going again. It's really very interesting. And maybe it was, she picked up on Karula's scent, and it probably heightened the hormonal response on her part as well. She's in another female's territory with those scents, so already her body is kind of responding to that. It's a very valid theory.
Exactly, and a lot of the time, Kwatile, after mating, was getting up and looking around, making sure that Karula wasn't sneaking up on her. Again, though, on the topic of not knowing what's going on, there's a very, very strong chance that they met up the night before, somewhere around the Djuma camp, just behind us, not far away, because Karula was seen following them from that same area that they moved through. So we followed their tracks, and Karula was on their trail. So maybe something happened, and I guess, again, we will never know the answer to that.
That's kind of the wonderful thing about this place, is that you will never have the answers to all of the mysteries that happen out here, such as what Lynn picked up earlier, which is you calling me Jamil. And that is a complete mystery as to where that nickname came from. It was originally from Scott, who called me Jamil. I think largely to do with the fact that when I came into the camp there was also James.
Yes.
I think that had played a large factor, but Jamil has just stuck, and it started with Scott and it's continued. James has jumped on as well, I've noticed. So there's lots of it coming through. It has been entertaining. I've had a wide range of nicknames. That is by far one of the nicer ones, so I'm quite happy to let that one stick.
Good. Well, yeah, my nickname when I was at junior school was Spud Potato, for obvious reasons. Anyway, enough about nicknames and Jamil and Spud Potatoes. We are going to play you guys the next clip, which is of the lions mating. Enjoy it. It's some awesome footage, some that James was involved in. Sadly, he is away on leave now, so he can't tell you that, his side of the story. But Jamie was there to see a lot of the latter parts of your clip, so she'll be able to tell you a little bit more. Enjoy.
It's not the amber-eyed or orange-eyed female. Let's see what happens here. She's quite a young lioness, you know. Now he's learned what to do. Here we go. He's not succeeding yet, everybody. Now he's marking territory. He did not succeed there. I will explain that to you now. Look, she's still going to be a little bit dissatisfied with his performance.
I think we're about to see some action here. we go. That's what we've been looking for. And he's still not getting it right. Again, just going to approach him. Listen to that amazing sound. He still doesn't know what to do. Well, what an amazing sighting that was, just to see that female really going to broker for that peace deal and trying so hard to get those Birmingham boys interested. And at least during my sightings, none of them had any success. My first sighting, I know, was in the afternoon. It was just after James's sighting, and that was one of the Birmingham boys, one of the younger ones. I'm not too sure which, but I can tell you that it wasn't Scrapper. And then Scrapper I saw the next evening, mating or attempting to mate with that Nkuhuma lioness.
Which was a very pleasant surprise.
It was an incredibly pleasant surprise. It was called in as one lone lioness, and there I drove up, and I'm sitting peering into the sighting, thinking, no, but there's extra limbs here. Lions don't have 6 legs. What's going on? And then he popped his head up. But it really was an interesting moment because it was a completely different male to the sighting I'd had the day before. Still as inexperienced and ineffective as the other males had been before him. She tried so hard to get them interested, and she adopted the position that she needed to, the lordosis reflex. Nothing. They tried every now and again. It just didn't work out for them, and you could almost tell he was more interested in relocating the rest of his coalition. He kept looking up, listening, trying to find them.
Yeah. Certainly a huge difference compared to Tingana and Kwatile, two experienced cats when it comes to mating, and really fortunate that we can see these young males kind of learning about the birds and the bees. There's no formal manuals that they get to read, or I guess I don't think their father got to teach them how to mate, so now they're busy making a fool of themselves in the process. But it's probably, well, it will be with coalitions throughout Africa that come through.
It's just the first time I've ever seen that.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. What we did get to see, though, was eventually late one night, just close to the Djuma waterhole, we went out and sat with the lioness and all 5 of the brothers, and she kept going up to the biggest of the males, trying to seduce him. He would chase off, and eventually he gave in. And not only did he give in, but his attempted mounting was successful, and we heard the loud growls tearing out, as it's a painful process, as a lot of you would have gathered from the leopard sightings and the way they lash out at one another. And the lioness actually managed to get her claws into his bottom lip as he jumped away, and immediately after they have unentangled themselves, he walked off proudly, roaring into the night. Ooh, ooh. So I think he did celebrate and was shouting his own praises. It was a beautiful sequence, and we do have it on film. We're just saving it for a special occasion. So you will all get to see it one day, just not tonight, sadly. Yeah. So
no, keep your eyes out for that. It is really special footage, and it's all built up to this point with the Birmingham boys coming in and taking over from the Matimbas territory. And it's finally culminating this point where they are mating with the females, which is pretty much not the final step, but it's close to the final step in terms of establishing
very
themselves.
Important step.
Yeah. And Marlene, you were wondering if the 2 big male lions have been seen recently, and you might be talking about the Matimba males, who were originally, when I first started working here in July, they were quite settled here as the dominant males. There were 2 of them, Hairy Belly and the Ginger male, nice big boys, but quite old, close to sort of 9-10 years old. And with the intrusion of the Birmingham boys, they fled south in the end. They called back for a little bit. They did try and put up a defense, and again, we don't know what happened in the dead of night. We just have no idea. But as far as I know, they are now, where are they now?
They're on Londolozi, which is probably about 4 or 5 miles to the south of where we are, and actually got an update today that they'd chased the Salala Pride. Now, I'm not sure if that's the Salala Breakaway Pride or the Salala not Breakaway Pride, but it is to the south of us, and they chased this pride of lion off a hippo kill. So the Matimba males are doing well. They've just found a new patch of land to settle in for the time being. But the Matimba male lion sent through a question. He's actually a human, so don't be confused. He sent through the question on Twitter. And the Matimba male lion would like to know, is there any chance these males will come back north to try and reclaim their territory? And there certainly is. Who knows? They might get pressure from another coalition in the south, or just decide, you know, enough's enough. We're going to come back and reclaim our territory. They may be just devising a master plan, as a wiser, older lion probably would do. So we're just going to have to wait and see. And in the meantime, we're just going to have to try and hope the smoke doesn't blow into our eyes anymore.
So much for repositioning.
It's been predominantly better than being there, though, Jamil.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think you've got the worst of it there.
Then one final update before we say goodbye. I promised I'd tell you a little bit about what the Sabi Sands management said about Sindile, this young male leopard. And I wanted Jamie to be here so that she could also hear about the news. Basically, the tests that are going to come back from the domestic dog that was exterminated, which Sindile did catch, in the next day or two. So we're hoping that the results will be back in the next day or two, and that will make a big difference as to how the future of Sindile looks. But for now, they've been told, and they have to follow these state regulations, veterinary regulations. 4 more darts need to go into him, and if that doesn't happen, the leopard will have to be exterminated. So even though it appears like what is going on is horrible, and it is, that we have to now chase this leopard and scare it and undo all the hard work that we have done, but it does need to be done, otherwise he will be exterminated. So that's the update. We'll have more news in the coming days, whether that dog was rabid or not. What they may end up having to do is actually collar Sindile to closely monitor him with a satellite, but they are doing everything in their possible power to keep this leopard alive and not let it be exterminated. So as much as it may look like a daunting process and a horrible process, it's better than this leopard being killed.
It's so important for his survival.
And we will keep you updated on any bits of information that we get, so in the coming days that will hopefully happen.
Absolutely. And just one more thing. I'd promised that I would get on top of the Twitter games. I've had Twitter for years. I've never used it. I have no experience. My Twitter handle, I believe it is called.
It's the official announcement.
Twitter handle is Jamie.Patterson4. I think. I hope. I think that's what it is. I've been fiddling around with it today. I'm completely
You only got the 4th in line, eh? Not the first.
No, not the first in line.
You're going to have to speak to the big bosses at Twitter and get that changed.
Sort that out. But for now, it is number 4 in line. Jamie.Patterson4. So there you go. That is my update on my Twitter handle. I will try to be it's Jamie Patterson 4. I've heard. I've got it wrong. It is Jamie Patterson 4. There we go. So no dot, Jamie Patterson 4. And I will try and be using it on a fairly regular basis.
Regular tweets, Jamil. Regular tweets. I've actually also been very slack. I need to get back on the Twitter sphere.
Oh.
Well, guys, it's been wonderful to have you around this very smoky fire this evening. And enough's enough. And the good news is, at the end of every Fireside Chat, it means we get to start a brand new week of safari action. Yep. I'm expecting good things.
Absolutely. We have a hyena there now. I mean, it's been quite the...
Yes, so well done to Jamie on that. And my prediction is wild dogs by next week, Sunday.
Yes, absolutely.
15 of them, 12 pups, 3 adults.
Yeah, coming down from Buffelshoek.
Yes, that's going to happen.
All right, well, big thanks from Scott and myself. We hope you have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are in the world, and we're going to say goodbye to now. See you for the sunrise safari.
Toodle-doo.
Too sweet.